I'll do the live stream. Yeah, you're good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And that talk will be slightly different from normal talks, as in you see a few slides and I've got quite some live demonstration. So I really hope everything is working out the way I want it. If not, please bear with me. Title of the talk is, as you can see, EasyBob, the friendly software installation bot. And on that note, I would like to thank Åke for laying the ground for my talk, because some of the problems Åke mentioned, I try to address from a different angle. And but before I go into that, what I would like to do is, apparently it is common these days to show where you're working or show off where you're working. I've got no idea. Now, those who went to the EasyBuild user meeting last year, that is South Kensington campus. We are quite nicely located. All of that up here are museums. So you've got the Victoria and Albert Museum, you've got the Science Museum and all of that. That round thing here is not a cyclotron. That round thing is the Royal Albert Hall. And if you continue walking in that direction, you actually end up in Hyde Park. So that's quite a nice area where we are currently working in. Note my wording. As most of you probably know, that's my daytime job. That figure here on the right is not any of my colleagues. I'm working in a really nice team, and I'm serious here. I'm working in a really nice team that is basically software I try to install. And the common fights we are having when, you know, maintainers said, it's very easy, you just do, and you think, how many rabbit holes do I have to go down now? Okay, so that's my daytime job. I've got a little secret, which I released now. I've got another thing I'm doing. In the evening, I'm turning into a gentleman scientist. I'm a fully trained chemist. I started off working in the lab when I was 15. And that puts me in a quite unique position. I actually can talk to the scientists about their science, as long as it is somehow I can relate to. But I also can talk to IT people who, how to put it, have a different hat on, put it like that. I don't mean that in any negative way or form. Anyhow, enough of that. Similar as what Åke was mentioning, we have a variety of clusters. We have a variety of hardware, starting off with the top. That is, that is a cluster we have for some time now. When I originally started, that cluster contained, and here I can actually beat you, I hope, Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell, Broadwell. We have the Ice Lake, which have the RTX 6000, the old version GPUs. We have the AMD Rome Zen 2 and AMD Rome with GPUs. So it was a complete hodgepodge of things the cluster was doing. We stripped out the old hardware meanwhile. The capability, as it is called, Q, is now replaced by that new cluster HX1, which is, as I said, new. So we've got one architecture, we've got a separate file system for it, and a number of things are working much better. So we did a core count the other day, and it turned out our, some of my colleagues say competitor, I'm saying my colleagues at UCL, if they want to come to the same core count, they not only have to put their tier 3 facilities, i.e. the local one in, they also have to put their tier 2 facility in. So now you think, okay, we've got a larger, probably one of the largest tier 3 facilities in the UK. We've got a very big group, that is the group. So anybody who's working in IT will realize there is, as an engineer would say, mismatch between the amount of work what needs to be done and the team which is actually supporting it. Okay, we are outsourcing a few things like networking, for example. So, but nevertheless, there is a mismatch. Conclusion is, we are bloody good in what we are doing, given that UCL has a larger team and less cores. But anyhow, there's a mismatch. So traditionally, we did things manually, software installation, which means if somebody is installing it and is on a way or whatever, it was very difficult to actually upgrade it because the knowledge was somewhere. Problem. And of course, you saw the mismatch of hardware we are having. If you install it on Zen 2, how on earth can it run on AMD, on the Intel chips and all of that? So of course, EasyBuild provides, as we all know, build recipes, so it makes it much easier. But the problem I had is, you saw the size of the team. We had massive challenges when I started back in 2022. So I couldn't really bring the team up to use EasyBuild with speed. So it was sufficient. So what I decided to do is I decided, okay, we do something different. I'm aiming for a process where even first-line support can use it without actually knowing the ins and outs of EasyBuild and all the nifty tricks like Orca, for example, has demonstrated quite nicely with the -- flag and this and that and whatever. All of that is hidden. We script it. So basically anybody who knows how to use a Linux command line can install software like CP2K, like VASP, like R or whatever. They don't need to know much. That was the aim. And once you are there, you can do the next step and say, okay, we can potentially push it towards the users. So the users will be able to open a ticket with us by going to a website. And that's part of the demonstration later on. And basically say, I want to have R installed for the latest version, which is available in EasyBuild, and kick off the ticket process. So solution is, of course, automation. And so as summarized here, EasyBob, there's a star behind it. And you can ask me later on where the name comes from. It's basically a set of scripts that way around, which allows an operator who only knows how to use Linux, nothing more, to kick off complex installations. Because we are using EasyBuild as part of the mechanics, we've got the built-in reproducibility, we've got the built-in testing. So whatever we are installing, we can say in a publication, software has been installed with EasyBuild, that version, and then anybody can hopefully reproduce it. Because we had a, how to put it now, similar to Orca, a very interesting operating system. Leave it like that. All I'm saying is various versions of CentOS and Red Hat Enterprise Linux, all somehow coupled together and installed on top of each other. And so I decided, similar to Orca, we are installing things in a container. It is a bare minimum container, so it's basically just to run. I install one version of EasyBuild inside of the container, but as you will see in the demonstration, it's very easy to upgrade it to the latest version. And as I said before, final goal is we've got an user interface in our ticket system. I show you a mock-up of that. So don't look at the graphics. It's not there for graphics and graphical user interface and user experience and all of that. It only will demonstrate, hopefully, the system behind it. And so once the user presses the submit button, we check it. We can push off the installation, which we now do automatically. And my colleagues were like, that is brilliant. So Santi was talking last year at the EasyBuild user meeting. Originally, he was a bit skeptical. Meanwhile, it's my lifesaver. So we can do that. This is how all of the mechanics are working. I hope you can read it. So I'll guide you through quickly. That top bit here is all you need to know to submit your job. You basically fire off that script and you point it where the file is, which contains only the name of the easyconfig file you want to install. And I'll come to that in a moment. So that basically is generating a job script, which is called install.sh. We've got a site config file, which is a kind of a database, so to speak. It's a text file, so you don't need to install MySQL or whatever. And in here, similar to what Orca does, it is defining, okay, this is where my software tree is actually resting in my file system. We are using GPFS or whatever it is called these days. And the user is actually only seeing /SW-EB. On our compute nodes, my colleague David, he wrote a little script based on ArcSpec to look what kind of CPU I'm having, and that will be automatically mounted. So inside my container, I only install software in /SWEB, because outside it goes into my file tree, and then I've got things like foobar, Roam, Ice Lake, and so on. But the user, the module path is set inside the container, the same as outside as /SWEB. So that's the trick we are doing. We are using PBS Pro, which makes things a little bit more interesting. And of course, as you may have noticed, we are using IP version 6, so we have to do a few dances around a few things. But basically, you should be very easily able to adapt it to Slurm or any other kind of job scheduler you are using. All of that is in the software head. This is where you define various variables. Software list template is basically taking the information from the software list, which is a text file, puts it in the template, and then you have EB --, robot --, foo bar, and so on, and the easy config file. So all of that goes in there. That is generating that install, and you've got a software bottom there might be a few other. That is in the install, which is then executing the installation of EasyBuild in one container. We are using Red Hat Enterprise 8 now. The container is Rocky 8. We do the installation. We've got hooks here, goes back, and then it kicks off a testing. That container too here, we are using Alma Linux. So we've got Red Hat as an underlying operating system. We are installing inside a container which is made out of Rocky. We are testing in Alma. If all of that is working, I can be fairly sure my installation is working per se. Kenneth looks very suspicious now.
Yeah, I'm wondering why you're testing in Alma Linux if you're eventually running in RHEL. Why not test in RHEL? Because that's where the software will be used.
Good question. Let's take it on the top. If it is working in Rocky for installing, if it is working in Alma for testing, there's a good chance it is working in Red Hat as well. So if you only test on where you want to have it working, yes, it is one way of doing it. But if you test it over a different number of operating systems, then you are spreading it a little bit wider and you can have a little bit more confidence. But it's your choice. You can use, my colleague set up an obtainer script for Red Hat. The reason I was using Rocky is because I didn't have access to the RPMs from Red Hat. And at one point, I'm saying that is the easiest solution. So we are doing that. And that is the bit when it's getting a little bit interesting because that's now live. So you probably will ask yourself, how do I do that? And now I have to find the word. Here we are. So, and I need that one. And I need that one. So what I'm demonstrating here is that is pre-recorded. I hope you can see it. Basically, I'm going into a directory which is called software install Intel. You can name it whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. In there is the automatic build script, which I was talking about. In there is the site config file, which, as you might have guessed, is called CX3 Intel config. What we've done is we upgraded our operating system on our CX3 cluster, hence it's called Intel. And because we are building inside a container, we can use the software stack, which already is installed on our new purified operating system. So hence all of that testing is quite useful. You might find something called EasyBuild in here, which is good. Hooks gives it away. Forget about test. I've got no idea why I got that in here. Singularity is basically where the singularity definition files are, not the whole thing. You will find something called easy. what you can do is with the automated build script, you can say, okay, I only install software for EasyBuild, or because I've got something like Easy also running, so VMFS, for example, I can also install it on my local Easy, for example. There is it's currently not as developed as I would like to have it because we are not using it, but that is basically possible. So I'm opening now the config file so you get an idea. As Åke was saying, we have various hardware and all of that. So all of that is defined in here. What you can see is at the top, there is the platforms and it says Ice Lake and Rome. These are the various, the two architectures we are currently having. We've got a GPU platform variable defined as well, and we've got a no arc. So software like MATLAB, for example, which is pre-packed binaries or pre-compiled binaries, we install only one in a no arc folder, and then you can use it from wherever you want. A bit further down, you see, for example, function Ice Lake. And here I'm defining the Ice Lake specific variables, like for example, okay, it put up, like for example, which partition I'm using in our queue, like for example, the wall time, like for example, which architecture I'm using. That is important for the file tree later on. You can set, we've got, as I said, we've got no arc. We also have a development software stack. So in the rare occasion, which hardly ever happens, I'm actually submitting a pull request to EasyBuild of a new EasyConfig file. That would be going into the development software stack, because here I take the liberty to change it if and when required. Similar thing for the GPUs, which is the bottom bit here. What I like to do is, because yes, I have that information, but what I like to do is I put that information in the text file as well. So if I'm on holiday or if I'm standing here and my colleague is requiring some information, you can find it. That is the thing for GPUs shown here. And as you could see, there was a little line saying, what do you want to install? Only EasyBuild or Easy or both? I flipped it to EasyBuild. What I'm doing now is I was changing the EasyBuild version. Don't know if you've noticed it. Unfortunately, the color scheme in VI is a little bit stupid on my laptop. So I changed it from the previous 4.9.0 version to 4.9.1. And that is all I need to do because the script is taking care of the rest. So when I basically close that and I ignore the exit and I go into a working directory, I create a new directory. Here you could put in, for example, ticket number or whatever you fancy. And in that directory, currently there is nothing as you would expect it because it's new. In that directory, I put in a file, a text file, which is called software list.txt. Unfortunately, that name needs to be like that. In there, that's the bit you don't see, unfortunately. You can put down, for example, any flag which is in EasyBuild. So if I want to debug it, put down minus D. If I want to have the trace output, I could put it in. In my script, I've already done that. If I want to rebuild, you would put it down as rebuild. But at the end of the day, all you need is really the name of the EasyConfig file. Then I'm going back to that directory where my automated build script is. I need, that's the reason I print out the working directory. I need the full path of that working directory. And all I need to do is call that automated build script, call the name of the directory, and it is submitting the jobs to our queue. Yeah. And as you can see, if I do qstat, you will see these jobs are already running. As you can see, it is printing out, it submitted it to Ice Lake, and it is printing it out and it's submitted it to Rome. And you've got the job ID number and all of that, so that you can put in a text file if you want to. If you go back to the working directory, you will see a few more directories. One of them is called scripts. That is where the submission scripts are. So it's not in temp and then it vanished. if you need to rebuild, if you need to restart because the compute node decided, tell you what, it's Friday, I'm going home. Look, it does happen, not only on a Friday. You just can resubmit and off you go. You also see two more directories. One of them is called logs. That's the one where the log files from the queue are going. And the other one then is called Ice Lake and Rome. And if I go into one of these directories, in that case, Rome, you see the subdirectory with the job number. And in there are two files which are called, two directories which are called log and script. Log is, that is the reason I asked yesterday, where is the restart files which we introduced in EasyBuild 5, where does that go? Because I tweaked it, all of the log files will go in that log directory. All of the log files for the queue in the other log directory, and all of the build files will go in dev shared memory, because that is the fastest way of doing it. So I stopped that here for a very simple reason. That takes some time. And continue basically where I've left. So after some time, in the log directory from the queue, you see these log files. And if you look at it, this is the output of the log file. As you can see, because I changed the version of EasyBuild, the script is recognizing that and automatically updates EasyBuild on that particular tree, software tree. You get out, I'm pretty sure you've seen that before. So you get all of that out, and it's actually telling you what it is doing. So it's building and installing EasyBuild 491. Is that wrong? Yeah. And yeah, then it is all doing it, doing the sanity check, cleanup, and so on. And then it starts off building the software I want to build. And again, what it does is it's generating quite a lot of output. It is echoing the script it is using into the log file. That way I can check where on earth did I actually build it. And you can see at one point it is building for the Ice Lake architecture, for example. And then you actually get the output. What we are doing is deliberately, we first fetch all of the source codes, because if there's a problem, it's failing fairly easy. I can look into it if I see it and can, rectify it, because I might have it on my laptop also, and then I can continue. Then I'm doing the normal installation, the trace command. It's doing all of that. And at one point it is saying here, we are testing software in a different container. That is what I explained earlier on. It is telling you specific setting for, in that case, Ice Lake is being used. I know I don't need 24 cores to test it, but it's just, it's the same job. Then it does same, the echoing. And basically then you can say, okay, we check if everything is working. That is the easy big sanity check or whatever it is called. Ignore all of that PBS waffle there. And the important bit right at the bottom, it is telling you pass. So I've got a little script, which is basically saying check jobs. It is looking for the pass sign. It is printing out, okay, Rome, that has been passed. And so I can basically close the ticket. My line manager, when I demonstrated it, he said, I should have known I was looking in the log file. And I thought, come on, you know me. So that is working quite well. That is that demonstration. So if I go back to my files, my slides, and I continue that, and I continue that, that's basically the already in place and working scripts. So that is the back end, as I call it. That is working quite well. My colleagues are quite happy. But I said, we want to have users to submit jobs. That is the next thing. What we are doing here is, and I need to go back into the shell. We have decided we are using the GitHub repository, the development of the EasyConfig. So here we are. So I've got a little script which basically says, and that is the bit where I'm a bit concerned. I hope it is working. Basically, it's just pulling down the GitHub. It is generating a new list, which is basically just to demonstrate that. Paste here. The stuff you get when you do git pull. That is the now interesting bit. We've got a database. Yes. And I just put the file there. And then it is connecting to our database, which contains all of this stuff. And all of the changes coming from the GitHub pull are now being put into the database. Yeah. So that's the boring bit somehow. And it's echoing out what it does. And just to double check, and you can see there is quite a lot of things coming in. Good job that is working. I'm quite chuffed about it. And so if you go to a web page, now again, just to be clear here, this is a mock-up. It only should demonstrate what I want to achieve. This is not how we are going to use it. So there will be more graphics and logos and all of that. But I can't give you access to our ticket system. So I thought that is a standalone. And so Open Database successfully, obviously, is not there in the production. So there are various ways of searching files. So I decided, okay, I just base it on the module, because if a user wants to use, I don't know, something from the bio, most likely they will not look into language or tools. So for example, bio, then it comes up with all of that list here, which is dynamically generated. And what you can do is if you click on one of them, and there are a few things I need to change, you get the homepage, you get the description, and you get the citation information, for example. And then you can say, okay, I want to do that one here. And I want here, you would have then the whole list of different versions and which tool chain. You click on that one and you say submit data. Obviously, you don't get that in the real life example. You would get that information here in the ticket. Then we can sit down and we can have a look at it and say, yeah, okay, it's fine. I want to have a human in the middle, simply because EasyBuild has only 3 software packages and a few zeros behind it. I don't want to have a user say, I'm fed up. I tell you what, I show them what I can do and submits all 3,500, or whatever EasyConfig files in there. But that's the information we get. Then we can say we can take literally copy paste that in the software list.txt file and send it off. At one point, we want to have that automated. So I'm going back to my presentation and I'm nearly done.
Quick question, Jörg.
Yeah, sure.
Does the form now just give you everything that EasyBuild supports, or does it also take into account what's already installed?
Good question. Yes, in the database, not in the form, but in the database, I've got a column saying installed, and then I can say 0, not installed at all. 1, CX3, for example. 2 would be CX3 and HX1, and 3 would be then only HX1. So yes, you can do it.
So you're only showing stuff that's not installed yet.
Now, you could do it that way as well. Yeah. As we've got a database, one of the big advantages is you can query the database in any shape and form you want to. And so you can say, I simply show the software which is not installed. Or you can say, okay, if it is installed, we tell you where it is installed, for example. So if you've got like various clusters, and one of them, for example, serial jobs or serial software, I will not put on HX1, which is capability 1. So it doesn't make any sense to have expensive InfiniBand if you can get hold of it these days. If you've got expensive InfiniBand and you run a job on a single core, that would be a bit stupid. That is where CX3 is for. So here, so as demonstrated, we've got a user-facing GUI. And that is something what Kenneth mentioned yesterday. The number of software requests is going up. So if you can put that somehow in your ticket system, that would be quite good, because then at least you don't need to know which EasyConfig file you need to install. It's been given to you by a user who doesn't know anything about EasyBuild. Yeah. So you can use, for routine installation, you can use first line support, for example, to kick off the process. And if things then go wrong, they can escalate it to, second line or third line, and they can look into it. As I said, as it is a database in the background, other searches are possible. So you say, I don't like the module system, I want to have it in alphabetic order. Fine, you just change the query string and you're done. It also means, as it is a database and as we've got a column saying installed yes or not, accountants come along, yeah, but how much software do you have in the Intel? Does it actually make any sense to use that license? How often do you install that software, and on which you can say it's not a problem, you just send it to the database and at least you get a result back. How accurate it is, yeah, I'm not counter checking and checking it, but here we go. And what I've done last night is all of that is now available on GitHub. So if you're interested, the whole set of scripts is down at the bottom. On here, it says acknowledgement, and on the top, I'm very grateful for the EasyBuild community, Slack and so on, for their support. That script, how to get the software into the database, how to query that, what I'm doing is I'm querying the module files, the EasyConfig file, sorry. And here Bart Oldman was very kind in providing a Python script. As everybody knows, Python is my second nature. Not. So I'm quite honest about it. I'm still learning. So I'm very grateful for that. One of my colleagues, Trev, I'm pretty sure he has been born with an SQL knowledge. Last time I used SQL was 24 years ago. So yeah, obviously Imperial to give the opportunity to speak here. And of course, Bob. Without Bob, none of that would have been working. Unfortunately, the Bob I have in mind is currently not here. But here we go. And you for your kind attention. And I'm pretty sure I'm completely over time.
Yeah, you are, but that's fine.
Sorry,
No,
we started late.
it's okay. There's one question in Zoom, which I do want to ask here. I mean, the people here in the room, if there's any questions for Jörg, you'll be here today, tomorrow for the whole ride, so they can definitely ask you then. Richard is asking, what type of tests are you running when you're doing the testing in a different container?
Oh, that is the sanity check. What is the exact?
Sanity check only.
Yeah, sanity check only.
Yeah.
So it is checking if the module is okay, if all of the things are there, and that's basically what I'm doing.
Okay.
So not the test suite.
No,
not the run test.
Not the run test. They are done during installation. And if they fail, it is crashing here, and then you get error.
Yeah, there's currently no easy way in EasyBuild to only rerun the test suite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We could look into that, but it's not that easy to make that. No.
Partly because you need to get everything back set up in directory structure to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might need it.
Okay. No, very interesting. I wonder how far you want to take this. So now it's essentially a generator for tickets, right? And it gives whoever picks up the ticket enough to hopefully do the installation.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to make that one step further and make it generate a pull request where people just hit, yeah, sure, merge, and then things kick off fully automatically in the background. You do want to have that human in between, but
yeah,
maybe you don't want to just generate a ticket, but something that they just can click OK, and then it goes ahead and does the installation.
It is, currently, we would like to have somebody in the middle. And even if that person says, in the ticket system, submit.
Yeah.
And submits the job to the cluster. How we are solving it, I've got no idea. I want to get the front end, as I call it, done first. So it's a step-by-step approach, and each step we are learning quite a bit. That site config file I changed around 3 times. I had an initial idea, then we got HX1, so I improved on it. Then we got the CX3 phase 2, as we call it, and I improved further on it because I realized, okay, that's not a good idea. And I think I reached a more or less steady state. So if you get a new cluster, you just have to change a few things like which queue are you using and so on. And of course the partition names. And then you're more or less done. So it is, the ideal world is user submits it, we get a ticket, we look at it, yes, it looks fine. Does make sense to do that installation and just press go. And if you run at the end automatically the check job script and you get the pass back, then the ticket will be automatically closed. So that's the point where we don't have to work on it anymore.
There's one follow-up question in Zoom as well, also from Richard. What about software that doesn't have easy configs yet? There's no magic there, I guess, but
no, there is no magic there. You still need humans, like you, for example.
Yeah, Simon says, can't believe that there exists such software that doesn't have easy configs. Do you have dedicated build nodes?
No.
So if you're unlucky, part of the build will be ready within 5 minutes, and the next will be next week.
If I see that, as I'm a sysadmin, I can actually change the program.
No, you're cheating.
Yes, of course, I'm cheating. Now,
Yeah.
the problem is, if you've got dedicated build nodes, you need to have for each architecture a dedicated build node. I used for the dev development software stack. What I didn't talk about, there is actually one script which is called interactive install. So if you do interactive install and then if it is development or if it is Roam and so on, you are inside the container and then you can install software from a pull request, for example, because you want to do a few things and test out and so on. So you can do that. And that was running on a dedicated old node. But currently our cluster is so full that having dedicated build nodes and somebody finds it out and then complains, yeah, but that node is always idle. It's better to put it on the queue.
Yeah, I got a question. Do you have any method to exclude concurrent builds that may step on each other? So if you install something with the same dependencies concurrently?
Not really. What has happened in the past in some rare occasions is I'm kicking off a build which requires FOSS 2023B.
Yeah.
My colleague is kicking off an installation which requires FOSS 2023B more or less at the same time. Then at one point it is clashing when the log files are the same.
Yeah.
So currently not.
Yeah. I guess it's a universal problem for all sites, not just yours.
It is. How do you want to manage that? I have no idea.
You might have to speak with your coworkers.
I'm actually now on a serious note. I'm very happy to be in a team which is absolutely superb, and we really do work as a team. We are constantly chatting to each other and saying, "Okay, I'm doing this. Where are you?" And if there's a problem, everybody is jumping on a Teams call if required and solves it. So that is working really well.
Old classical corridor scheduling.
Yeah. Unfortunately, our team is only in the office once a week, and if and when required, because we've got people as far away as Southampton. So
yeah, we should wrap up here because we're actually half an hour overtime already, and we're just getting started. But okay, thank you a lot, Jörg. And yeah, if there's any more questions, Jörg will be around all week.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah, today and tomorrow at least.
Yeah, I'm leaving on Friday.
Yeah.
So that's
all right. We'll get. Yeah. Yeah.